Hi everybody, I want to thank you for your support and help as I have my latest injury, which is my hernia. And I want to thank you for your help. Today I'm going to show you my new setup and how I'm going to deal with not lifting that bucket. So first of all, I want to let you know that I am breast cancer free. And thank you again for your support in that. I just had my surgery August 9th. Which is what has led me to the hernia, because I ended up getting really weak and really sick. But the good news is that I am breast cancer free. So let's get right to it. In my tanks I have mystery snails and fancy guppies. That's all I keep. I have all colors of the mystery snails and a bunch of different guppies. So this is my pink tank. I have my pink snails and my pinkish fish. These are my dragons. I don't keep any snails in my dragons. Here are my baby snails. Down here are my brown snails and my swordtails. Here are my white snails and my albinos with one blue male. Here are my gold snails. Here are my black snails. Over here, these are my purple snails and my purple Moscows. Here are my cobras and my jade snails. I keep one gold in there, and I keep one blue Moscow in there to bring out the dark in the cobras. As you can see, these tanks have been suffering because I have not been able to keep up since my breast cancer surgery. In here I have a Galaxy and my blue snails and blue Moscows. Here are my green Moscows. I keep a couple white tuxedos, and I think there's a cobra in there. And those are my 11 tanks. So here's my new setup. What I did the other day is I went and I got this pump. Expensive, it's like over $100, but it's so worth it. And what I do is I put it in here, and I had to get an extension cord. I had to go back because I forgot the extension cord. So the extension cord, this is the extension cord to turn on the pump. This is the hose for the water that will come out from the pump, from the bucket or from the tank, and it'll go directly to the toilet. And over here I have my Python, which will allow me to take the water from the sink to the tanks. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, why in the world aren't you using the Python to take the water out? My apartment complex doesn't have enough pressure for that. So I can't take the water from the tanks out from the Python. Now, in order to get this Python to work, it was quite a task, because you can see it's one of those fancies. So I went to Home Depot, and what I did is I took this, and I took this, and he was able to size me for an adapter right there. Now the problem with this, you have to be really careful, because if you don't hold on to this, it'll go all the way up in the hose, and then you need some needles to get it out. So, and that's my hose, and you can see my tanks are a disaster right now, because like I said, I've just not been able to keep up with it since breast cancer. So, but again, I'm breast cancer free, so, and luckily I've lost a couple animals, but not too many. So these are my white albinos. So let's get started. Let me show you what I do, and hopefully this video will help someone with disabilities or who has problems. I have multiple sclerosis, so that's something else that has just been kind of an uphill battle. So let's see if I can. And you have to excuse me, I'm in my PJs. I cannot wear tight pants right now because my hernia is just so uncomfortable. So, Don't forget to subscribe and share this video around so that we can help other people. Okay, so first thing I do, put my long, sexy gloves on. And I take a small, I take a really small siphon. I like this bucket to be on my left side. I take a really small siphon and I siphon anything, all the gunk out from the bottom. It takes me just like 5 minutes. So let's start with that. And again, excuse my outfit. Like I said, I've got that hernia and it's uncomfortable to wear anything tight. I don't know if you guys know, I just cut 16 inches off my hair. My friend and I, my best friend since 3rd grade, and I were both going through breast cancer together. Unfortunately, she was not able to be breast cancer free, and she's going through a little bit more than I had to go through. So I cut off 16 inches of my hair to support her, and I'm having a wig made for her. And she's going through chemotherapy and whatnot. Now I have to remember to not lean because leaning hurts my hernia. And hernia is an indirect inguinal hernia in my right leg. And I'm noticing it also is affecting my back a little bit and the front of my stomach. Now, I'm a triathlete, so as soon as I get this hernia under control, first thing I'm going to start doing, I've been in the pool a few times, but first thing I'm going to start really working on is getting back into good shape. I'm very embarrassed about the shape I'm in right now, but with the summer I've had with the cancer and everything else, there's just nothing I can do about that at the moment. It's amazing what different medications will do as well. Uh-oh, something got stuck in here. It's amazing how different medications will also affect your weight. And in my case, was gaining. Okay, so I got something stuck in here, so I gotta bang it out. Got it. Sometimes a little piece of coal or something will also get stuck in here, and I have to take a pencil tip, like the lead of a pencil, and poke it out. I like using this small tube because I can control it better. I can get into the nooks of the corners. I can also make sure that I don't get my baby snails. I have all colors of baby snails, and sometimes my baby snails, they will hatch. In the tank, I have a little hatchery. I'll show you that in a second. But sometimes my baby snails do hatch in here. If I don't get the whole clutch off of it, they will hatch in here, and I like to make sure that I don't suck them up. And with this little siphon, I have more control over the big one. Claude's trying to put this big one in here. It's quite a task. So my bucket's getting pretty full. At this point, I would start sweating because I would have to get nervous and I have to pick it up and take it to the bathroom, which is probably about 20 feet away. But I have my little pump in there, so I'm actually not worried about it. Now I know I overfeed my animals, and that's why this is so gunky. And I'm okay with that. I do water changes every Wednesday and Saturday. I'm a retired music teacher. And I originally wanted to go into be a marine biologist, but it was just too much work for me, and at one point they told me I was going to have to work with cadavers, and that's where I tapped out. So I feel pretty good. I'm getting all the water out. I feel pretty good about the bottom here. I like to feed my snails fruit and veggies, so I have a couple strawberry tips in here. I don't waste anything in my house. When I eat a strawberry, you know how you cut the green part off? I give them that and they eat that. They eat the leftover strawberry. And I like asparagus and I cut the asparagus off. The extra asparagus, the bottom part, they eat that too. I just put it on a fork and let it sink to the bottom. So my bucket's pretty full at the moment. And see? Right, and you can still see how gunky this tank is. My snails are like, what? So at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn on the pump and suck the water out of that bucket. Now this pump, I got kind of a big one, as you can see. It'll take like 3 seconds to do this. Watch. Okay, plugging it in, and you gotta make sure you hold the hose because it moves a little bit. I'm afraid it would move too much and spray, which it doesn't, but it does move a little bit. And now every now and again, I just flush and make sure we don't have overflowage. And with my multiple sclerosis, this gives me a minute to just kind of rest for a minute, you know. Okay, so that looks like that's about done. Unplug it. Flush one more time. All good? So let's go back over here and see. I think it takes it down to 3/16 of an inch. Ta-da! For a second there, I thought there was a fish, but okay, so now at this point what I do, get my sexy gloves back on. So I'm gonna put that in here. So I just move everything out of the way. And at first I was like, oh, the fish and the snails are gonna get sucked in. But the holes for this particular pump are actually quite small. And sorry to say, but the fish are terrified of it, so they stay away. And I've moved the snails. I had a piece of gunk right there. I've moved the snails to the side. They are also out of the way. So this will take this down. This tank is pretty unhealthy at the moment, to be honest with you. All my tanks are pretty unhealthy at the moment. So I take this out. Just make sure all the, excuse me, I had a wedgie. Make sure I'm just being real here, I guess, guys. I take this out, make sure all the water is out. It's heavy, but it's not as heavy as I thought it was going to be. And I just pop it in here. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are going to judge because of this, but I'm okay with that. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to do it. And the water is coming out of the top, or the bubbles are coming out of the top, which means it's sinking. All my fish are away. The babies are even away. Nobody is even by it. So they are all completely, you can see nobody is even by it. There's like one baby down there. But most of them are all over here. So now I'm going back to the bathroom. I'm going to turn the pump on. And this is the tricky part where you really kind of have to watch it. Here we go. Pump is on. I put the seat down in the toilet to hold the hose. I'm just watching. Looks like the fish are all staying away. You can see how quickly that water is going down. I'm probably about 60% right now, and I want to do about 50. So by the time I get back to the back and turn it off, perfect. Let's see how it looks. Good, it's about 50%. Now I take my python and I know on my sink, I had checked the temperatures on my sink. I know where to keep it on my sink so that I keep it about, so I've got my python in there now. And at my sink, right about right here, is about 75 degrees. Right in the middle is about 75 degrees. Not right away, it's kind of not cold, but it's not freezing. And I'm filling it back up. Now once I'm filling it back up, I can rest for a minute, which lets my breast rest, lets my MS rest, lets my head rest. In all honesty, I don't really rest too much, so I'm gonna start putting together the top of that tank. This was the tank I did a minute ago. Put this back on. Check the water, feels good. I have a little snail that is floating. Snails float for a few reasons. The females will float sometimes to get away from the males. They float honestly because sometimes they're dying. Other times they float just because they have an air bubble in them. So when my snails float, you can see him right here. This one is a female. So what I do is I just put her on here. I just let her sit on there until she kind of can awake herself. That way she can get her siphon out and drink water, or siphon the air. Now you can see I have completely upset this tank. There's stuff everywhere. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to siphon the bottom one more time because I'm a clean freak. So with mystery snails, you have to leave a little bit or not too much at the top, because the mystery snails like to leave their eggs on the inside. I think I can show you one. There's a sack right here. I'm leaving that one in the tank because it's so tiny. So at this point you can see it's not all the way to the top. I'm going to turn it off, because the mystery snails like to have their water inside. Because if you put the snails, if you leave them, just let them be, and this is my hatchery. Okay, one thing at a time. So the mystery snails like to lay their eggs inside, but they like to lay them at the top of the water, right where the water will moisten the eggs. They won't drown, because if the eggs are in the water, they will drown. And if the eggs are outside the water, they won't get enough air. They'll get too much air and they'll dry out. So here's my nursery. So basically my setup for my nursery is an electric blanket with a couple towels, and then this goes on top of it. And in the morning I just turn it on, and at the night I turn it off, or other way around. And then I keep right here the chlorinated water, and I spray it usually in the morning. and at night. Sometimes, pardon me, sometimes I don't spray it at all because the condensation in here will drip on there. Pardon me, drip on there nicely. Now it looks like I have some eggs hatching. So these are blue, and you can see I have one hatching there. So as soon as I clean out my baby tanks, I will get those guys in the water. Looks like this one. So this one is not ready to hatch. When they start looking moldy, kind of like this one is black. When they start getting moldy looking like that, these guys I could probably start getting in the water too. I'll show you that in a little bit. So those are these guys. I'm gonna leave these out right now so I remember to get them. So back over here. Hi, looking pretty good. My snails are starting to come around. My fish are at the top. They probably just need some oxygen. So, oh, I have a bubbler going on. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get all that gunk out at the bottom because I'm just like things to be super clean. So let's get out my sexy gloves again. And I've done 2 tanks so far. I didn't video the first one. And I haven't lifted 1 bucket yet. So the siphon, you just have to sink it all, let the bubbles come all out. Sometimes I have to wiggle it to get the bubbles out completely. And I put my thumb on one end to hold the water in, and voila, here it goes. So when I'm doing this, I just I go by my plants and I kind of tap on them and get that kind of gunk off of it. I don't touch my filter, I leave my filter alone. If my filters look really gunky, I usually have 2 filters per tank. I take one and I wash it off. And I usually wash it off in the bucket of the dirty water. I know it's gross, but that way the chlorine doesn't kill all your good bacteria. And you have a better chance of not completely ruining your, oh, it went through, okay. You have a better chance of not completely ruining your cycle. I've been there, done that before, so learned. So this thing's looking pretty good. I don't keep any substrate on the bottom of my tanks, and the reason again is for my snails, my baby snails. They get lost in there, and I can see exactly what's going on. I can see the males with the females mating. I can see better what's going on. I can see if there's food in there or not. My rule of thumb is if I can't see food, then there isn't any. And I know I overfeed them. I make my own snail food most of the time. Sometimes I use Ripashi. Sometimes I do Snello. I like Mystery Inc.'s food a lot. I use that often too. So I'm taking down the water from the top about 2 inches for the female snails, so that they can go ahead and lay their eggs. And then I take the eggs off and I put them in the nursery. And then I put, oh, I got a snail in here. And I put them in the nursery. There you go, buddy. I don't like to hatch all my snails in like main tanks because the snails will take over. It's an awful lot of babies. So this piece of decoration is just really gunky to me. So I'm just wiping it off in this gross, dirty water, but this is good bacteria water. And I'd rather keep the good bacteria in there. Now my snail that I just put in went upside down, and these mystery snails, they actually breathe water. So when they're upside down, you really should try and turn them over, if you see that. Here's a piece of gunk right on the top here. Try and turn the mystery snails over because they really sometimes will get stuck, especially if they're tired. They don't have the strength to turn around. So if I see them upside down, I just stick my hand in there and turn them right side up. Most of the time. Sometimes I'll leave them, like, I'll check back in an hour or two. I'm probably a little more overprotective with my animals than most people. I'm okay with that. You know, this is my project to keep my mind and body going as I'm retired with my multiple sclerosis, not working. So this is kind of my way of doing things and keeping going. Now these snails and fish, I don't normally sell them. What I do is the friends in the schools, they will come, or even hospitals. They will come and they'll pick out what they would like for their tanks in their classrooms, or the hospitals, or the local elderly home that's down the street here. Kind of just my way of giving back, and it's a good way to see some of my friends, you know, from teaching. And they come and they pick out what they want for their tanks, and I like it. It, you know, keeps my tanks, like, you know, keeps things fresh in my tanks. The only rule is they have to wear masks when they come in, and bring their own packing material, because I don't provide all the baggage and stuff. And they can't sell the animals. I have to just keep them in their classrooms. And if they don't want them anymore, they give them back to me, you know, at the end of the school year. Took out a little bit more than anticipated, so I'm going to put a little bit more water back in there. But the bottom is nice and cleaned out, so I feel pretty good about it. Now at this point, I put in my dechlorinator. Whenever I do 30% or more, I always put in dechlorinator. And no matter how much water I take out, I always put in stress coat. And I do just exactly what the labels say. And every other week, or sometimes every week, I put in Itch X. The problem with the mystery snails is they can carry itch, and you won't know that they have it. That looks about good. So I'm just kind of proactive about it, and I just put in my Itch X. And I usually put in, I haven't seen anybody in this tank, what I call do a flip. So I'm putting in not quite a full dose. So I put in about 4 instead of 5 milliliters. I think it's 5 milliliters per 10 gallons. No, I just put in 4 milliliters. Let me see, what is it exactly? I don't remember. Yep, 5 milliliters per 10 gallons. Gotta be really careful with this Itch X stuff because it will turn everything blue. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope it will help someone who has disabilities like I do. And please go ahead and share it with other people so that we can continue to help other people. And again, thank you for your prayers and your best wishes. And if you know anyone that has breast cancer or MS, please please go ahead and send them my way. I would like to do as much as I can to help them in any way, shape, or form that I can. So please let me know if they'd like to talk or have any questions. I know that stuff is really scary, especially when you're getting diagnosed, which takes quite a bit of time, and the tests and whatnot. So please send them my way if you have anyone that has breast cancer or multiple sclerosis. I'd be more than willing to talk to them or help them in any way, shape I can. I hope you guys have a great, blessed day. And again, feel free to share this video with as many people as you'd like. And let's keep this world positive. And God bless. Till next time. Bye.